the haunted chair of death. In a small quiet village in England, there stood an old creaky house. The house had been there since the 1600s, and the villagers whispered about it in fear. Inside that house, hanging on a wall, was a wooden chair. But this was no ordinary chair. It was cursed. They called it Busby's Stool, the haunted chair of death. The story began over 300 years ago. A man named Thomas Busby had owned the chair. He was a cruel man, known for his dark dealings and wicked ways. One night, after a terrible crime, Busby was captured and hanged for his sins. But before he died, he placed a curse on his favorite chair. "Anyone who dares sit in my chair shall die," he screamed. And from that day on, the chair brought death to all who touched it. Years passed, and the chair remained in the house. People forgot about the curse until the deaths began. The first victim was a tired traveler. He saw the chair, and not knowing its history, sat down to rest. The next morning, he was found dead, his face twisted in terror. The villagers were shocked, but thought it was just bad luck. Then, a curious maid cleaning the house decided to take a quick sit. She laughed at the silly stories until she dropped dead before sunset. One by one, others made the same mistake. A brave soldier, a foolish drunkard, even a stray cat that curled up on the seat, all died within hours. The villagers grew terrified. No one dared enter the house anymore. Finally, the local priest decided something had to be done. "This chair is evil," he said. "We must stop it from claiming more lives." He gathered the villagers, and together, they came up with a plan. They couldn't destroy the chair. Legends said that would unleash the curse upon the whole village. So instead, they hung it high on the wall where no one could sit on it. For years, the chair stayed there, untouched. The house became abandoned, its doors locked, its windows boarded up. But the stories never faded. Children dared each other to sneak inside, but none were brave enough. Some said they heard whispers coming from the chair at night. Others claimed they saw Thomas Busby's ghost sitting on it, grinning in the moonlight. One stormy night, a group of teenagers decided to test the legend. "It's just an old chair," said Jake, the boldest of them all. "I'll sit on it and nothing will happen." His friends begged him not to, but Jake didn't believe in curses. They broke into the house, their flashlights shaking. The chair hung on the wall, its wood blackened with age. Jake reached up, pulled it down, and placed it on the floor. The air grew cold. "Here goes nothing," he said, smirking as he sat down. For a moment, nothing happened. His friends sighed in relief. Then, a loud crack echoed through the house. The chair's legs snapped, and Jake fell to the ground. His face turned pale. His breath came in short gasps. It hurts," he choked. His friends screamed as his body went still. Jake was dead. Terrified, the others ran, leaving the chair lying on the floor. The next morning, the villagers found the house wide open. The chair was back on the wall, as if it had never been moved, and from that day on, no one ever dared to enter the house again. The haunted chair of death remained, waiting for its next victim. Some say if you listen closely on a silent night, you can still hear Thomas Busby laughing, and the creak of the chair, ready for another soul to take. The Dybbuk box, a wine cabinet of evil. Jacob loved old things. His room was full of dusty books, strange coins, and weird little statues he found at garage sales. But his newest find was the strangest of all, an old wine cabinet. He saw it at Mr. Feldman's antique shop. The wood was dark, the carvings were strange, and it had a weird smell, like old flowers and something rotten. Mr. Feldman looked nervous when Jacob asked about it. "Oh, that's just an old wine cabinet," Mr. Feldman said, wiping his hands on his apron. "Not for sale." but Jacob wanted it. He begged and begged until Mr. Feldman finally agreed. "Fine, take it, but don't say I didn't warn you." Jacob didn't care about warnings. He carried the cabinet home, excited to show his friends. That night, he put it in his room and opened the doors. Inside, there were small shelves, perfect for his collection. But as he touched the wood, a cold shiver ran down his spine. That night, Jacob had his first nightmare. He dreamed of a shadowy figure standing in the corner of his room. It had no face, just blackness where eyes should be. It whispered his name in a voice that wasn't human. Jacob woke up sweating, his heart pounding. The next morning, he told his best friend Mike about the dream. Mike laughed. "You're just freaked out because of that creepy cabinet." But things got worse. Every night, the nightmares came back. Jacob saw the shadowy figure again and again. Sometimes, it reached for him with long, bony fingers. Other times, it just watched him from the dark. Then the noises started. Late at night, Jacob heard scratching inside the cabinet, like something was trapped, trying to get out. He told himself it was just mice, but deep down, he knew it wasn't. One evening, Jacob's little sister, Emma, came into his room. She pointed at the cabinet. "Who's the man inside?" Jacob's blood turned to ice. "What man?" Emma tilted her head. "The one with the black eyes. He's looking at me." That was it. Jacob called his dad. His dad didn't believe in ghosts, but even he looked worried when Jacob told him everything. "Maybe we should get rid of it," his dad said. They carried the cabinet to the garage. Jacob felt better, until that night. At exactly 3 a.m., he woke up to a loud thump, then another, and another. Something was knocking on his bedroom door from the inside. Jacob's breath caught in his throat. The cabinet was in the garage. How was the knocking coming from his closet? Slowly, the closet door creaked open. The wine cabinet stood inside, its doors wide open. A cold, rotten smell filled the room. Then a hand reached out. Jacob screamed. His parents came running, but when they turned on the light, the closet was empty. No cabinet. No hand. The next morning, they found the wine cabinet back in the garage. The doors were shut, but deep scratch marks covered the wood, like something had tried to claw its way out. Jacob's dad didn't ask questions. He took the cabinet far into the woods and left it there. That night, for the first time in weeks, Jacob slept peacefully. But miles away, in the dark of the forest, the cabinet's doors slowly creaked open, and something stepped out. Robert the Doll. In the quiet town of Key West, Florida, there was a doll that no one dared to mock. His name was Robert, and he sat in a glass case at the Fort East Martello Museum. His stitched smile never changed, but his eyes seemed to follow you. The story began over 100 years ago. A young boy named Robert Eugene Otto received the doll as a gift. Some said it was from a servant who practiced dark magic. Others claimed the doll was always evil. Whatever the truth, strange things happened as soon as Robert the doll entered the Otto home. At night, the family heard whispers and footsteps in the halls. Furniture moved on its own, but the worst was the laughter. A child's giggle, cold and unnatural. Young Robert insisted the doll was alive. He blamed everything on Robert. One night, his parents woke to screaming. They rushed into Robert's room and found furniture overturned, toys scattered, and the boy trembling in the corner. "Robert did it," he cried. The doll sat perfectly still on a chair, its glassy eyes staring straight ahead. Years passed, and Robert Otto grew up, but the doll never left him. When he returned to Key West as an adult, he brought the doll with him. Neighbors swore they saw the doll watching them from the window. Sometimes it wasn't in the same place they last saw it. After Robert Otto died, the doll was locked away in the museum. But the terror didn't stop. Visitors who laughed at Robert or took his picture without permission suffered terrible luck. Some lost their jobs. Others got into car accidents. A few even claimed the doll's face twisted in anger when no one was looking. One day, a teenager named Jake visited the museum with his friends. He didn't believe in curses. "It's just a dumb doll," he said, smirking. His friends warned him, but Jake didn't listen. He snapped a picture of Robert without asking. "Hey, ugly, smile for the camera," he taunted. That night, Jake woke to a faint giggle. His room was ice cold. He sat up, heart pounding, and saw something move in the shadows. A small figure stood at the foot of his bed. The stitches on its face stretched into a grin. Jake couldn't scream. He couldn't move. The doll took a step closer. The next morning, Jake's parents found his room destroyed. The walls were scratched like something had tried to claw its way out. Jake was gone, but on the floor, sitting neatly in the center of the chaos, was a single, tattered doll. And its smile was wider than ever. To this day, people whisper about Robert the doll. They say if you visit him, you must always be polite, ask permission before taking his picture, and never ever laugh at him. Because Robert doesn't like to be mocked, and he always gets revenge. The Cursed Mirror of Myrtle's Plantation. The old Myrtle's Plantation in Louisiana was known for its ghost stories. People said it was one of the most haunted places in America. But the creepiest thing in the house wasn't a ghost, it was a mirror. 12-year-old Jake had heard the stories. His parents didn't believe in ghosts, but when they visited the plantation for a tour, Jake felt a chill as soon as he stepped inside. The air was heavy, and the wooden floors creaked with every step. The tour guide led them through the house, telling stories about the people who had died there long ago. Then they stopped in front of an old, dusty mirror hanging on the wall. "This is the cursed mirror," the guide said. "They say it holds the spirits of those who died in this house. Some visitors see faces in the glass, faces that shouldn't be there." Jake stared at the mirror. At first, he saw only his own reflection. But then, something moved behind him. He spun around. No one was there. When he looked back, his stomach dropped. A pale face stared back at him from the mirror. It wasn't his. The face was a woman's, her eyes wide and sad. Her mouth opened like she was trying to speak, but no sound came out. Jake stumbled back, his heart pounding. "Did you see that?" he whispered to his little sister, Emma. She frowned. "See what?" Jake looked again. The woman was gone. He shook his head. Never mind. That night, back in their hotel room, Jake couldn't stop thinking about the mirror. He turned on the TV to distract himself, but the screen flickered. For a second, he saw the woman's face again, right in the TV. He gasped and turned it off. "Jake!" Emma sat up in her bed. "What's wrong?" "Nothing," he lied. But then he saw it. The mirror from the plantation was now hanging on their hotel wall. "How?" Jake's voice trembled. Emma turned and screamed. The mirror was there, and inside it, the woman reached out her hand. Her fingers pushed through the glass like it was water. "Run." Jake grabbed Emma's arm and they bolted for the door. But when they opened it, instead of the hallway, they saw the plantation's dusty old hallway. They were back in the Myrtle's plantation. The air smelled like old wood and something rotten. Shadows moved on their own, creeping along the walls. The woman from the mirror stood at the end of the hall, her dress tattered, her eyes black. "You looked into the mirror," she whispered. "Now you're trapped with us." Jake's breath came fast. He had to get them out. He remembered the tour guide saying mirrors were doorways for spirits. Maybe if they broke it. He turned and ran back to the hotel room, or what was left of it. The cursed mirror still hung on the wall. Jake grabbed a lamp and smashed it into the glass. The mirror shattered with a scream. Not his, but the woman's. The world spun, and suddenly, Jake and Emma were back in their hotel room. The mirror was gone. The next morning, their parents didn't believe their story. But when they checked out, the front desk clerk frowned. "You stayed in room 207, right?" he asked. "That's weird. No one's used that room in years. It's been locked up ever since." He hesitated. "Ever since those two kids disappeared there?" Jake and Emma exchanged a terrified look. They had escaped the mirror, but the Myrtles plantation wasn't done with them yet. The Cursed Black Monk Painting. In a small town in England, there was an old, creepy painting of a monk. His dark eyes seemed to follow anyone who looked at him. The painting was called The Black Monk, and people said it was cursed. One rainy afternoon, a man named David bought the painting at a flea market. The seller warned him, "This painting brings bad luck." But David just laughed. He didn't believe in curses. He hung the painting in his living room. That night, he heard strange noises, soft whispers and footsteps. He thought it was just the wind, but then the whispers grew louder. A deep, growling voice said, "You should not have taken me." The next morning, David woke up with deep scratches on his arms. He hadn't been near any animals. That night, he saw something impossible. The monk in the painting moved. His head turned and his lips curled into a cruel smile. David tried to take the painting down, but it wouldn't budge. The air turned icy cold. Suddenly, an invisible force slammed him against the wall. He screamed as something choked him. Then, just as quickly, it stopped. David ran to his computer and searched for the painting's history. He discovered that every owner of the Black Monk had died mysteriously. Some were found with their necks broken, others with faces frozen in terror. That night, David heard heavy breathing behind him. He turned slowly and saw the monk standing in the corner of the room. His eyes glowed red. "You are mine now," the monk growled. David grabbed a flashlight and threw it at the painting. The glass shattered, and for a second, the monk's image flickered like a bad TV signal. A horrible scream filled the room. Then, silence. The next morning, David woke up feeling relieved. Maybe he had imagined everything. But when he walked into the living room, his blood turned to ice. The painting was back on the wall, untouched. And this time, the monk wasn't alone. A shadowy figure stood beside him, a figure that looked just like David. Days later, David's friends found his house empty. The only thing left was the Black Monk painting. The monk's face was now twisted in a victorious grin. And in the background, barely visible, was the faint outline of a screaming man, trapped forever inside the cursed artwork. If you like the video, please give it a like, leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Also hit the bell icon so you never miss an update.